So I'm putting a Suburban up for sale. I have no more use for it and I'm out of money. So I really can't do the things to it that I want to do, like add the turbos and make awesome dyno videos and really try to pull about 800-900 horsepower and 1,000 to 1,200 foot-pounds of torque out of the car. So putting the suspension back to factory. I didn't do any videos of this, but I made my own drop kit since I couldn't find one. You can see it's about, I know that's like 6 inches, so that'd be like 7. And the axle's off the ground. So whenever I'm just driving down the street, any minor little bump, I touch the bump stops. I just wanted it low to go to scraping the coast. I wasn't as low as anybody else. The truck actually kind of looked like a factory 1500 instead of a 2500 because it's just huge. And I wasn't about to start cutting the frame, and so I kind of drew it out and throwing a notch in there because the frame kind of swoops up like a car. There is no easy way, and the rear end is so big, I would have had to cut the inside of the truck out to allow room for the rear end to come up into the body of the truck. I just wasn't doing all that work to get it a little bit lower, and that for a truck I was going to get rid of anyway. I bought this truck initially to haul my 30-foot Scarab with 6 people and luggage in it because the boat has seating for 6 down to Florida and do the Miami to Key West poker run. That's still on the bucket list to go, but I'm building this pre-runner project behind me, and it's going to have a 4L80 and a 400 plus horsepower 5.3 and 456 gears, so it'll tow that boat no problem. It'll have seating for 4 when I'm done with it, and that's pretty much as many people as I'd like to take with me. My dilemma here is I used the factory U-bolts. These are aftermarkets to do the drop on the RCSB. There's the axle out of the RCSB. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but my buddy Vic had to have it for his 83 step side that I did the exhaust on. He just wanted a 14 bolt heavy half with 373s, and I don't blame him. So I went and I got a factory 10 bolt 8.5 373s. It's got a stock engine with a built transmission. The stock rear end ought to hold up just fine. If you don't do the half grass, half concrete burnout stuff in it, it'll hold up just fine. My buddy Charlie's got a 410 locker in his truck, and yeah, he almost pulls the wheels off the ground running 13 flats in his. So that being said, let's get to work. I'm going to take the axle from over the leaf spring and put it back under the leaf spring and put the suspension back to stock, and I'll show you the makeshift genius I had done to drop the back 7 inches without actually buying a drop kit. It took a little work, it took a little ingenuity. It was kind of sketchy, so I really didn't show the installation or the making of any of it. And I was crunched for time. Do all the camera work and wrench work and edit it and upload it takes 4 times as long as it would have if you just turn the wrenches and put it together and drop it back down to the ground. I'll show you what I did and how I did it and the undoing of it. And you know, if you want to do it to yours, that's up to you. But the truck is going back to stock height, so you can tow a trailer. Yeah, let's just get it back to, you know, factory 2500 height. I have a set of 31s, but I'll still fill out the fender wells. It'll still look good. They're an aggressive, awesome looking tire. Take the drop off and put it back stock. And then I can do my U-bolt swap, get the RCSB back on the ground, because that's gonna be the next truck I'm gonna drive while I'm doing the body work on it, and get in the pre-runner project. This first truck I bought partially new. It was an 06 that I bought in 09. Pretty much raised 2 kids in it. Now it's mine, turn it into a pre-runner. But before I can get all of that going, I need to get some money back, and we had to sell the Gangsta Burb. We're gonna ungangsta the Gangsta Burb, put it back to stock. I keep saying it over and over again because I hate doing it. It looks so, like, it's just aggressive and low and wide and just the awesomest street truck. If I could have turboed it, it'd have been that much awesomer. Stop yakking and get to wrenching. So in order to start unmodifying my dropped 2500 Suburban, let's go ahead and set the jack stands up on the axle and start removing the shock absorbers. Because this truck has the GM Intellaride, I think is what they call it. This is the GM Intellaride connector. And here's the arm. And what I did, because I dropped the axle, well, I put the axle on top of the spring, that shortened everything up, so I had to drop the connection down. So I went and installed some shock extenders, as if we're unmodifying this thing and putting it back to stock. So I will go ahead and just set this jack stand up. I'll lift up on the axle real quick. Get one more click so it'll match the other side. There we go. Now I can drop my shock down. Just unbolt it here. I'll take off the adjuster in a minute. I don't know if y'all saw that, but I can just unbolt the shock here and take off my shock bracket. And this is some engineering on my part. I actually took a rear 1-inch lift shackle and tied in a piece of 1/4 inch by 1.5 inch bar to the frame up there to stop this from pivoting, and then bolted a gate hinge off a cattle gate to the frame and bolted with a grade 8 bolt all the way through to make this solid and not move. And then in the rear, put the stock shackle back in. Which allowed me to drop the spring down and put the axle on top of the spring, giving me more drop than lift because of the flip kit. So made a homemade flip kit and had to lift the drop, so to speak, just to make it ride, because when I went to cruising the coast with the drop like this, it was bump stops the whole way. The bump pads are clean. I even added extra bump stops in the overloads to try to give it a little bit more spring. And so long as you weren't towing a trailer or hitting very large bumps, Louisiana, Mississippi was a little better. Really rode good, even 4 people in the truck with a stereo system in the back. Now that I got the axle supported, go ahead and bust the U-bolts off. Then I can start taking off the springs and put them from under the axle to on top of the axle, unmodifying my truck. So in my usual fashion of doing things, so I don't look like a complete idiot on camera, I took the first side apart to show y'all what it is and how it goes together, or what it looks like off the truck. And then I'll go ahead and take the other side apart so I can put it back to stock. God, it hurts to say that. Got the spring off. Like I said, I left the stock shackle on the rear. I changed the different U joints, and I put this rear lift shackle on the front, like so. And then I tied it to the stock location up here into this bar with a grade 8 5/8 bolt. But this is how I secured it. I got this gate latch. I made this bar here attached to the frame. I had it bolted here and there, so it took the wiggle out of it, and it sturdied this bolt up. And this drop, the bushing went through the hole like this, and I had this through, and you got 2 different holes, so I was able to dial it in perfectly. And what that did, lower the spring through here and put the axle on top of the spring, which raised the axle and dropped the truck. So putting it back to stock, it's going to go on the stock perch, and I'm going to rehang the stock spring up here where it goes, and I'm going to put the longer drop hanger on the rear so I can get my exhaust back up. My exhaust used to come real close, and I had this void I cut in the fender, and this tip used to be up in here, and it looked great. I just kind of put that in there because where the spring ran, it runs right on top of the exhaust, and I couldn't put the pipe up where I wanted it to go. So like, it was either have the truck look low and wide and cool and have the exhaust down low, or lift the truck back up and put the exhaust back up. I couldn't really tow a trailer because you can see the bump stops are clean. This thing rode the bump stops like crazy. That being said, let's go change the other side over, and I can take the lift the whole truck up. I'll be able to put the springs back and then sit the truck on top of the axle, and it was just going to work easier that way. I also had to buy some new U-bolts, and I used the stock U-bolts on the regular cab. Got to steal the bolts off the regular cab, put these on because the stock ones off the Gangsta Burb. We're going to get the whole thing sorted out and get the truck back at a higher ride height so I can tow trailers with it, and I'll feel good selling it without my rigged up suspension on the back. It worked though, and it was solid, and it looked good. So just like the other side, we're going to start by taking off the shock and the extender, then I'll take off the rear lift shackle. There's my little bar I made to support everything. And we'll be able to drop the spring out from under here. Then we can take off these U-bolts and pull the spring out. Also have to take off the rear hanger. Then we'll be able to put the spring on top of the axle and lift the truck back up. Okay, so let's do it. They're way longer than the other ones, and this helps drop the spring. I couldn't get the full drop out of them because of the AC lines on the other side. I had to use the second hole. But I have another pair somewhere which aren't as long. I think I'm going to use those instead. It's not going to have as much of a drop. This hole is still lower, so it's going to have somewhat of a drop on the rear, but I believe a more manageable drop than these. And I'll end up using the super long ones on the pre-runner project to get as much travel out of the rear spring as possible on the pre-runner. This one just needs to be a little bit lower than factory. Factory, I mean, this truck is up there. It looks ridiculous. Even on 32, 33-inch tires, which is all these fender wells will fit. You can fit 35s, but the front rubs when you try to turn unless you start cutting stuff. Not trying to cut stuff, and I already bought these 32s. The truck will look good on the 32s at stock height. Stock tires were 30.5s and it looked ridiculous. Kind of made this whole drop just by winging it. I really don't have any parts, pieces, or a list. Kind of bought the shock drop. It's off of the OBS off of eBay for like 15 bucks. The piece of metal they used to brace and everything else I kind of got at Tractor Supply, not sponsored. Everything else is like reusing the factory bolts. For the shocks and everything. And then the lift shackle I use on the front to lower the spring to raise the truck so it can have a little bit of suspension on it. That was like one of them $20 eBay purchase things. Kind of got creative, modified my own rear suspension drop for a 3/4 ton Suburban because I couldn't find one online anywhere to just purchase and bolt on. This is going to drop down a little bit. The other side's already sitting on it. See how rocky that Suburban is on this lift? That's why this lift will lift up 12,000 pounds, no problem, but it's balancing it and it kind of gets sketchy. So the next thing I'm gonna do, I guess, is take this bolt here. Take that one off next. Is that a 21 also? Shock was a 21. Yeah, that's a 21 for sure. But the front side is something else. That's all right, we'll just get it loose. This is another bolt I bought aftermarket at Tractor Supply. But not sponsored. They have a really good selection of like automotive or farm grade, I guess, bolts. And that's a lock nut. It's a metal nut lock, not an eye lock. So that's nice. The bolt on the front side is this size. These trucks are tricky because this rear shackle, you have to undo the bottom bolt to get the spring itself high enough to get the top bolt over the top of the frame to get it out. Always kind of put the nut back on the back. You're gonna give it a tap so you don't mess the threads up. Gets it close. And then kind of, love this little hammer. It's an old hammer, but it's got this like breaker bar on the back. It's all one piece. Call it tink. Wedge tink up in here. Get the weight off of it, and the bolt comes right up. And let the axle drop onto the jack stand right here. So let's loosen up the U-bolts. Just kind of let the whole thing relax. I didn't cut these because I knew they weren't going to stay on. So I just left them long. So my socket won't fit all the way up. But if I loosen it a couple turns, I can get the socket and the impact on it and just run them down real quick. The impact sockets, because they're weighted, don't have as much room inside to reach. All right, now we get to do the front with the my little crazy axle concoction, but it was triangulated and it held up a 77,000 pound truck. That's how it went on. Rear left shackle to that bar that tied in this bolt to the frame under here. It was a engineering marvel for finding junk at a feed and seed store to make this all work. 7/8 bolt. Ugh, I put that on there pretty good. Put the old cheater on it. Just because I'm being lazy. So even with the lift, I'm down here on the ground because I'm scared of the weight of this thing. And the axle's not light either. This side was a real pain because of the gas tank. I remember now. That's why I put the bolt in this direction. I'll probably have to pry the gas tank back to get this bolt out of here. Because I couldn't get the nut on from the back side because of the gas tank. I couldn't get my hand in there, but I could slide the bolt through it. That's what happened. Alright, so that's loose. Big old grade 8 bolt. Ugh, there you go. And the same on the back side, I believe. Yeah, this was the hard part. The other side come off pretty easy. I probably should have videoed that one and taken this one off.
Success. Now I am not.
I'll pause LT for a minute while I'm under here. Got my 2x4 wedged up in between the frame, squishing the gas tank back a little bit just so I can get my hand up in there. So I need to get to the back side of this bolt. So if my hand could fit up in it, I can get to the nut side to hold it with a wrench. We can take this drop hanger, and that camera's up in there, take the drop hanger off. I got the bolt out of this, so it'll hinge right here. I can finish getting this bolt out because it's touching the... So you can't get a ratchet in there, and you just need to hold it. Breaker bar, it's kind of thin. So I got my nut loose. I popped it off of there. I can tap this bolt through just a little bit. Tink, tink, where'd Tink go? There's Tink. Oh, Tink, Tink. Right, those threads are big enough that I'm not really worried about messing them up. There we go. Got that dude out of there. Go up with the track. All these compress. Take some of the weight off of it. Once I get this top bolt, there you go. Get the weight off of it, you can pull the bolt out. Nice big old grade 8 bolt. That's out of there. Get the tension off of this bolt. Pull my trim washer down, my spacer. That'll all fall out in a second. If you ever need to make a spacer, get your piece of galvanized pipe, the right size for the bolt, cut it to fit. It worked great in between these two washers against the frame. I don't know where the other one is. I'll find it once I get up, I guess. There it is. So using these two washers allowed me to get this bolt right up against the frame, just like that. Worked awesome. A little ingenuity. Could have welded it, made a bracket out of it. It just didn't. Boom shakalaka. Modified drop block to fit a 4-inch axle tube. So now both of the leaf springs are free. This is my 1-inch or 2-inch lift shackle, depending on which hole you decide to go with. I had to drill this one out so the bolt fit tight in it. Love a step bit. Or I can take the leaf spring and put it back up in the factory location, which gives me my factory lift back. Now I can bring the truck up, which the strap will let the axle rotate up with the truck. I'm not going super high. I'm going just high enough to place the leaf spring back on top of the axle. Man, it's going to lift it back up like 6 to 8 inches. I don't like this. But as much as I don't like it, it makes the truck useful again for towing. So, all right, back up in there we go. Go ahead and pull this thing out of here. And the spring is now out. So before my Camry battery dies, I'm gonna change this out to the longer ones that I showed you over here. And jack the truck up on the lift so I got more room between the axle, and put the springs back in the stock location with the lift and the rear. So it has a little bit of drop. It's gonna have like a 2-2 drop, like a 2-inch static drop is what it's gonna have on it, which isn't much because this thing was high up in the air when I got it. So time to do that next. With everything disconnected and the axle sitting on jack stands, let's go up. Press that red button. The ratchet strap that I put around the drive shaft is pulling up too high on the axle, making it want to rotate off of the jack stands. Let's see. Yeah, that's what's going on. But I don't think I'm high enough yet. I might be. It's got a pretty good curve to it, but I'm going way higher up back there. One way to find out. So I'm gonna go ahead and undo the stock shackles. That's gonna give me, a couple inches of drop. Like butter, baby. So, put on. Okay. I got a whole finger away from this filler neck up here. Before I had to shove that up and crimp it. Now I'm lower than stock, but not by much. But nothing's gonna interfere and touch. Sometimes you just gotta Neanderthal it in place. Shove this up here, pull it down, push. There we go. So that's on. A nice nylock. So I'm gonna get my breaker bar because it's thin. It's not small, it's thin. And then I can sneak this in here. Use that to push on the bolt. And hold it from spinning while I look for my other wrench. So now I can hold that, tighten this dude up. So I got the spring under the other side and have my jack on this side. I can't exactly go up with the lift because the brake lines, they're a little tight. I don't want to stretch them. So I'm just going to jack the axle up side by side and drop the U-bolts down on the top and secure it. Back together with the taller shackle in the rear. And then the stock hanger location in the front. I added these bump stops on the overload spring to give me more curve so I could have a little bit more height here, but I got plenty now. Let's get this thing bolted together. So I'm gonna drop in some U-bolts and secure the axle on this side, rinse, repeat the other side, and then I can take off the shock adapters and put the shocks back on stock, and it's going back stock. I did not record me reinstalling the U-bolts on the back of the axle for the regular cab. It's just U-bolts on an axle. They did go a different direction than the stocks. Instead of being square and going across the mount blocks, they're ovaled and they go over the tube and hold the tube to the leaf spring. So that's done. It's just sitting 4.6 drop. That's it. 4.6. It's kind of tucking the back tire and the front tire. Orange brakes in the front through the wheels. And these kind of dirty and red. But they will be orange shortly when I repaint the axle. I just had to get the axle under the truck because this axle is going on Vic's 83 step side with the 5.3 swap. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw the tires back on the back of the Burb and get it off the lift. Tito's coming over tomorrow and he needs to change the oil. Figured it'd be easier on that than with the jack on the floor and the gravel. That way I can show y'all what the difference is between when it was dropped and level versus stock in the rear. It'll kind of be sitting up, you know, kind of funny looking because well, everybody's squatting them now. I don't know why, but this is how we used to do it. You jack it back up, have it sniffing pennies on the ground. So throw the tires back on it and show what it looks like at stock. Well, 2 inches less than stock height because I still did put the 2-inch drop hangers. I had some 4-inch drop hangers on the rear and they just didn't fit. So went with the 2s and the front's on torsion bars. We'll be able to adjust the front accordingly. I'm gonna put the stock shackles back on, stock spindles back on the front and get my drop spindles back. All right, 4.6 drop. And then you back off. And that's not stock, that's 2 inches lower than stock. When I tell you this truck has got some fender well gap, I mean, I know that's 9 inches. I got 9 inches of fender well gap compared to, it was pretty even before, what, 4 fingers? I don't know, 4 inches. But now I get to remove the little plug I made in the back and get the exhaust pipe back up where it belongs. I don't remember this truck being this high, but I guess that's it. Full drive for sale. 05 OGB, old Gangsta Burb. That's the difference in an axle flip. And that's not even as high as it would normally be. That's with a 2-inch drop. That is ridiculous. But we're back on the RCSB and fixing to get to the pre-runner project. It's tucked off back in there. RCSB will be my new daily once somebody buys this. Next up, crate motor for the pre-runner project. That's gonna pretty much do it for Modified for this week. I appreciate y'all watching, especially if you stayed to the end of these things. It really makes a difference on my channel. But try to catch me on Fridays around 3s when I put them up. Catch you next week. Later.